Welcome back to another episode of Health is Wealth. And thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. And as always, I am beyond grateful and thankful from the bottom of my heart for each and every one of you who is tuning into this podcast and into today's episode. And I truly hope it brings value into your life, as every week I am dropping a new episode, just sharing thoughts of words, that are going through my mind on my own journey in life. And again, really hope it does bring value into your life, whether it inspires you, motivates you, maybe you hear something for the first time, or, see something in a different point of view. And if anything, just get a chance to know me a little bit more and just understand my mission in life. So in today's episode, I wanted to talk about this quote I came across this week. And it was that people hate change until the pain of changing is worse than change itself. People hate change until the pain of not changing is worse than change itself. And it had me really thinking, and it had me thinking about these points that we get into our lives at times where we all of a sudden stop and just take a look around at where we're at, what we're doing in life, and realize we're not content. We're not happy with where we are at with what we are doing, and it could be several different things. And so we get to these points where maybe we're not happy with the job career choice that we're at, right? Or we chose. We're not happy with, the body that we have. We're not happy with how our bank account looks like, or just our overall lifestyle. And it is if we feel that there is more, if there's something else, we're supposed to be doing, as if life is supposed to be more exciting than where we are at. But oftentimes we find ourselves in this, situation where we take a look and figure it out that we don't like where we are at, and we may start to complain about it, yet we still choose to do nothing about it, right? And that's what brings us to this point, though, is how long, are we going to stay in this point of being comfortable with where we at, even though we say we don't like it, until it's actually time to change? Because I believe that's it. I believe, this quote is saying that until the actual pain of being in your circumstance, of not living the life that you want to live, not having the lifestyle you want to have, not having the body, the bank account, the job, the lifestyle, until the pain of that exceeds the pain of what it's going to take to change, right? Because change is scary, change is new, change is uncertain. You've probably been in a rhythm, in this routine of doing what you've been doing. So although we may not like where we're at, it's safe. We know what our days look like. We know what the week looks like. We just know what our life looks like routinely, and there's something secure and safe about that. When we have change that we're bringing onto our life, or that's coming into our life, it's uncertain, it's unknown. We don't know what happens on the other side of change, if things get better or worse. But again, until that point of where we are at exceeds the pain point of what it's going to take to have to change, right? Picking up new habits, starting new things, to start, adapting into, how do I become that person who can live this lifestyle? Until that pain outweighs, the pain of the change process itself, then we're just going to stay comfortable being uncomfortable. You know what I mean? And we have to get to this point then in life to ask ourselves, even though we say that we're uncomfortable with where we are at, is it really that uncomfortable for us if we're willing to spend so much time complaining and not doing anything to change the circumstance, yet spend that much time complaining about it? And, for an example here, sometimes you hear people complain about their situations, for months or years, to be honest. And you have to ask yourself, okay, if it was really that bad, then why haven't you have changed it? Obviously, the pain of whatever you're complaining about isn't bad enough, because it hasn't caused you to do anything to change that lifestyle, right? To change the things that are necessary in order for you to obtain what it is that you want in life, that whole new lifestyle, whether it's your body or your job, your bank account, whatever that may look like to you. And, You've seen that in people sometimes where, they've been stuck somewhere for a while and all they continue to do is complain about it, but yet won't do anything to actually change it. And that's why I really like this quote, because it really puts things in perspective that, the people who you notice tend to change their lives are the people who finally hit that point in their life where that pain point of being not where they want to be at, living a life that they don't want to live, having a body they don't want to have, not having the freedom of financial, of time, and all of that they want, when that pain of not having that becomes more, then that pain is going to take them to actually go through the process to change it, building new habits, building a new identity, right? Building a new circle of influence, changing everything that's been programmed to who they've been and routinely have been and been used to becoming. Once that outweighs that, then it's like the change starts to happen. But until we can reach that point to where we say, I am absolutely sick and tired of the situation, then nothing is going to change at all, and we remain, comfortable being uncomfortable, in the sense that obviously it doesn't bother us enough if we can continue to live in it. I mean, there's people you come across who, you could tell they don't like the lifestyle because they complain about it, and you ask how long they've been doing the same lifestyle, and it's been for years, right? And so you have to hit that point. I guess we have to hit this point in our lives to where we have to realize that until we can make that pain point more so than the pain point of what it's going to take to change, to become a new person, to go through doing the hard work that we're not going to want to do, put in the hours, the early mornings, the late nights, get uncomfortable learning new skill sets and all that, until that outweighs that actual change itself, then you're going to unfortunately be stuck where you're at for however long it takes us, to get over that hump, to get over that hurdle. And it makes me realize that a lot in my own journey, because I have a lot of those same complaints, right? I don't feel like I'm at where I should be at, where I want to be at, where I believe God's calling me to be at. Yet I have to recognize that, in order to see the drastic change in my life, that I have to continue being sick enough to being like, okay, I've spent so much time complaining about where I'm at and where I'm not at and what I'm not happy with. At what point does it actually start to change into what I do want? And it's that moment when we can hit that pivotal point of the pain that, outweighs the pain of the change, is that pain of, I'm just sick and tired of being sick and tired of not being what I know in my heart and in my mind I'm being called to be. And it's something for you to think about, because we can get complacent, right? Sometimes we can just get in a routine about complaining about something, and that's just the routine of it. And so without hitting that point, then nothing's ever going to happen. And I think we can reach that point manually if we recognize that, okay, it's going to take me being absolutely fed up. I've been saying this for weeks, for months, for years, whatever that might look like for you, and being like, I'm absolutely sick and tired of being here and not there. This needs to change now. And I believe once we could start to recognize it and start to, look at it through that lens, then we start to take things more seriously. Then we become more intentional, because we realize, at that point, we're like, we can only go forward and be like, are we going to look back and regret, the time that, we could have been living that life, or regret, the time that it took, us to go through the process of changing to get to that life. And ultimately, you'll always look back and regret the time that you wasted not taking serious action, starting to build that lifestyle, starting to build that person who's going to then live that lifestyle. More so, I think we will regret the process of going through change, because that's difficult itself, and they're both hard and they're both difficult. But one of them, you're going to sit with regrets, right, for a very long time. And so the point of all that is to say again that we have to hit this point to where that pain outweighs, the pain of the change, which is the pain of being sick and tired of where you're at. And if you know that's not where you want to be, then we have to start taking some big actions, making some big moves, and taking some big, thoughts into consideration, and be like, what initial steps am I going to have to start to do this? Because once that pain of being stuck, it almost feels like, outweighs the pain of what it's going to take to go through the changes. Sometimes it means dumping a social life for a while. Sometimes it means getting rid of people who are not going to get you closer to your goal. A lot of times it's developing new skills, a new mindset, a new influence, a new circle of people, environment, and all that. You know, if we can get to the point to where that change now is not so bad as realizing that if I don't do anything, I'm going to be stuck here 20 years from now, and I'll still be wishing and wanting that other life that I could have had I only been courageous enough to actually go for it and take that shot and take that leap of faith. So the point is to get to this point, right? And that's when we can actually start seeing those changes in our lives. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode, and we will see